So spring has sprung, at least at Trader Joe's. Hi, welcome to another video. I was grocery shopping yesterday at Trader Joe's and I saw all these beautiful spring blooming bulbs that inspire me to show you a very natural vertical garden arrangement. Let's get started. So what I have here is a rustic looking long wooden box. Now, this wooden box originally came with a liner. I've used it many times so the liner is cracked and no longer is watertight. So what I have in here are 3 of these single-use food storage plastic containers that I buy at the dollar store. There's 3 of them. They seem to fit pretty perfectly in here. And then I just put floral foam in here. Now, I'm going to show you a little trick with fleshy spring bulbs. Now, it's hard to get things like hyacinths into floral foam and they'll flop over and you're going to have a lot of problems. So what I did is, if you can see, I created a gap between the foam and the container here. And then we're going to set the hyacinths in there. So not everything has to be in floral foam. You could have it next to floral foam in the water and actually use the foam and your little holder to hold that in place, to kind of wedge it in place. So I'm going to start with the hyacinths because they're the hardest to put in. I like to see the hyacinths foliage with the hyacinths, and it comes apart when you cut it really short. We're going to cut a little bit to make a fresh cut, but not a lot. And we're going to put it in here. I'm going to actually put the whole bunch in together because they need to be wedged in, next to each other. And they will grow a little bit as they open. These are still pretty fresh because I just bought them yesterday. So I'm going to take the whole bunch of hyacinths. So the idea of this arrangement is we're going to make it look like these bulbs are growing out of the container or out of the ground. So I'm going to cut these pretty short because hyacinths in the garden, at least in relation to things like irises and freesias, are pretty short. So I'm going to try to keep it natural looking. And then I'm going to set this all in this little slot that I created for the hyacinths. Let's hope it fits. I think so, because you want it to be kind of tight so that it's not going to fall over. Here we go. So you've got your cluster of hyacinths kind of growing out of your container, right? Okay, yay, it fits. Ooh, that was the hardest part, making sure it fits. And then we're going to do the same with the callus. I'm going to cut it a little shorter. And I'm going to wedge it over here. So you kind of have to predetermine where you want your callus and your hyacinths. And that seems to work. I just want it to look like it's growing out of the ground like that. Okay, so we've got our 2 fleshy stemmed flowers in. Now the rest is going to be easier. Next, we're going to place our Dutch iris. This is my husband's favorite flower, Dutch iris. And they were only $3.99 at Trader Joe for a whole bunch of these. Okay, they're not the longest lasting flowers, but they're really beautiful. Now the irises we're going to keep sort of tall because in nature they're going to be a lot taller than your hyacinths or calla lilies. They don't have to be all the same height, but we want it to keep it vertical like this. So I'm going to have some taller and some shorter. So you just want it to look like they're growing in the garden. And you don't need it to all be the same height. Oops. There we go. So you can vary the height a little bit, but keep it overall sort of tall. This is really beautiful. Okay, so we've got our Dutch irises in. And then we've got yellow freesia as well as white freesia and some larkspur. Let's go ahead and do the yellow freesias. Freesias are going to be all tangly. Let me get them. These freesias are so hardy and healthy looking. Sometimes, you know, during the summer, the freesias are looking really sad, but right now, look at that. They're just glorious. Beautiful, beautiful freesia. Okay, where do we want this? On this side? In the middle? Maybe in the middle. Some white, some yellow freesias here. And if they're too tall, you can cut them. And what I'm doing is cutting it and using the flowers separately from the foliage. And we also want to have that freesia look like it's growing from your foam. I believe this is called a vegetative design, if I remember my floral design school, or a garden style. I probably could have bought some tulips to go in this, but the tulips move around a lot and I want this arrangement to stay sort of vertical, so I decided against getting tulips. But tulips would be pretty in here as well. Kind of an Easter almost like arrangement. And here's all the side shoots to the freesia and some of the foliage. I want to have a few of the natural foliage in the freesia. Okay. Here's the buds. There we go. And then we still have some space over here. I'm trying to think, do we do the white freesias or do we do the larkspur? I also have some pretty pussy willow here, left over from other arrangements I've done. The pussy willow lasts forever and it's starting to root. You can see the roots on some of this. So I could probably put it in the garden and grow my own pussy willow. Okay, let's put some in here. Nothing says spring more than pussy willow. Okay, we've got the pussy willow in here. And we have space over here for maybe the white freesia. I think I'm not going to use the larkspur because it's probably too tall. And it's not quite in the theme of our spring bulbs. But I bought that just to have that tall white vertical orientation, but I'm sure I can use it somewhere else. Well, we have another stem of iris in here. So I'm going to add that in here. Okay. And I'm going to move this because it's crowding our hyacinths. Same with this pussy willow here. And the hyacinths will show up more as it blooms. Okay, let's do our white freesia on the end here. Oops. I want a straighter one because I don't want it to look like an arrangement so much as it's like growing from the foam. Oh, they're so tangly. I'm trying to disengage them from each other without hurting the flower heads. Okay. Okay. So just have some taller ones and some shorter ones. just like a real plant would have. A nice sturdy tall one here. Okay. All right. I think that's all we need. And then what we're going to do now is cover the foam. But instead of using greenery, we're going to use moss because I don't want any greenery in here that will detract from our bulb plants. Got a basket of moss here. And I'm going to put some gloves on to work with the moss. Because we want this to look natural, like it was growing from the ground, we're not going to green in. I think greening in would sort of spoil the illusion. We're just going to use moss. So I'm just going to put some moss on the foam here to hide the foam. It's going to be messy. That's why I have my gloves on. I actually harvested some moss from my garden this morning, but it's still very muddy, so I don't think I'm going to use it. Now to secure your moss, you can use this product called greening pins. Greening pins are sort of like a little U-shaped, or like, I don't know how to describe it, almost like those staples you use to secure landscape cloth, but much smaller, and they just stick into the foam. Now, I think it's used mostly in funeral work, where we do a lot of leaf work, where you're covering foam or large things with leaf greenery. That's called leaf work. And so a lot of the techniques and products that we use for flower design actually comes from funeral work, sympathy flowers. Okay. And if you're not really transporting it, you almost don't need to use the greening pins because I think it'll just stay in place. What I sometimes do is, instead of using wet moss, I'll use dry moss, and you can spray it with a little bit of water to dampen it so it's not shedding all over the place. I don't love using the soaking wet moss. See how once you cover the foam, it looks so much better? It's like wearing a nice dress, but barefoot. Now we've got shoes on. Okay. Okay, mostly done here. Take a look. Maybe put a pin on the end here so that doesn't come out. And we're all done. It's a super easy arrangement using very inexpensive spring bulb plants I just purchased from Trader Joe's. I'm going to spin around so you can see what it looks like. Now this is an arrangement that could be viewed from all sides. And I think I'll use this on my island for the week and enjoy these spring flowers. I hope you had fun watching this video. I sure had fun making this arrangement. As always, please like and subscribe. Leave me a comment, and I will see you in my next video.